Hey guys, it's Mallory here with All About Cats, and in this week's video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the Petree automatic self-cleaning litter box. So going into this review, I was pretty curious about the Petree litter box for a couple of reasons. One, I've generally become kind of fascinated by automatic litter boxes over the last year. I've had the opportunity to try out a number of them, and it's really interesting to see the different approaches that companies will take to designing an automatic litter box. And when it comes to the Petree specifically, it seems that they're doing some things that are pretty interesting. So at first glance, the Petree litter box looks a bit like a smaller, sleeker version of the litter robot. In contrast to a lot of other automatic litter boxes that use kind of a raking mechanism to clean out the litter pan, the Petree has a globe that rotates 360 degrees to sift out your cat's waste. And this design looks pretty similar to the litter robot. You'll know that the litter robot's design is one that I've found to be particularly effective in a world of really ineffective automatic litter boxes. So that made me pretty interested in the Petree. The other thing that was interesting about the Petree was that when I started doing research on it, I found there wasn't that much information available. So most of the information I found was on the Petree website, and then I was able to find some videos on YouTube that were either produced seemingly by the company or which didn't really go in depth on what it was like to use the Petree with cats. I was really interested in seeing what my experience would be like using the Petree litter box and sharing that experience with you. So we purchased the Petree litter box, and over the last couple of weeks I've been testing it out with my cats. I've been taking notes on things like how well it sifts, whether or not there's a lot of sticking, if it controls odors, and how easy it is to deep clean the litter box. So in this video, I'm going to be going in depth on all of those observations and telling you my thoughts on whether or not the Petree litter box might be a good choice for you. So the litter box arrived essentially fully assembled along with a little honeycombed mat intended to be placed in front of the litter box, a 3-month supply of waste drawer liners, essentially small trash bags, and a power cord. Before being able to use the Petree litter box, I had to put in a waste drawer liner and stick the drawer into the back of the litter box. The litter box measures 23 inches wide by 21 inches high and 25 inches deep. The entryway is 14 inches high and 7 inches off the ground. Overall, it is significantly bigger than a typical litter box naturally, but at the same time, it's going to take up significantly less space than something like the litter robot. Now, before you're able to plug the litter box in and start using it, you're going to have to add litter. So on the website, Petree says that any type of litter besides clumping clay is strictly forbidden. So you're only supposed to use it with a clumping clay litter. I used it with Tidy Cat's Naturally Strong Litter, which is a clumping clay product, and as we'll see later on in the video, it worked pretty well. One kind of odd thing though about adding litter to the Petree is that the amount of litter that you're able to add is kind of counterintuitive. So you're able to add up to 8.8 pounds of litter, but you're only supposed to fill it up to the maximum fill line, which is significantly lower than the top of the litter bed area. It's only going to add up to a couple inches of litter, probably less than the amount of litter that you would use in a typical box. Once you've added litter, put the Petree in the location where you ultimately want it to be, and you plugged it in, you're going to be able to use it. So the way that the Petree litter box works is by detecting a cat's presence in the litter box. So when a cat goes into the litter box, it will detect its weight, and then it'll start a timer. Petree says on their website that this is a 30-second timer, but I timed it and it's actually a minute. So after 60 seconds, the litter box is going to start rotating. As the globe rotates, the litter is moved through these different chambers. So it goes into this little grated compartment that collects the clumps and then eventually sends them out through a chute into the waste drawer at the back. I found that it did a pretty good job of collecting clumps and sending them off through this chute. I also saw that some clean litter was sort of raining down out of gaps in the litter box globe. This sort of raining down of litter during each cycle didn't really negatively affect the end result, but it was a little bit concerning to see that. Like most automatic litter boxes, the Petree litter box does automatically stop the cycle if it detects a cat. Additionally, you can put it into sleep mode if you don't want it to cycle automatically. So this will last for up to 10 hours. You'll press the button on the bottom and navigate to sleep mode, and then it won't cycle automatically. The Petree does have this screen that allows you to see your cat's weight displayed in kilograms. This is a pretty neat feature, but at the same time, it's kind of limited. So you're only going to see your cat's weight directly after they've used the litter box, and there's no way of tracking this weight unless you're doing it manually. So that kind of limits your ability to use this as a weight tracking tool. I also kind of wish there was a way to toggle between imperial and metric. It would be nice to see pounds on the readout rather than just kilograms, but there really isn't any way to adjust what you're seeing on the screen. This is a theme with the Petree litter box. You're pretty limited in terms of customization. There's no way to adjust the length of time that it's going to wait between your cat using the litter box and starting a cycle. So if you're using a slower clumping litter and you think maybe it needs 10 minutes in between usage and a cycle, you're not able to get that waiting period. It's always going to be that standard 1 minute wait time. In terms of odor control, the Petree did a good job. During that 2-week testing period, I didn't notice a lot of odor until I opened up that waste drawer. Now, I found that during my 2-week test with 2 cats, I only had to empty it out once in the 2-week period. That being said, I currently have about 4 litter boxes, so my cats are able to use a wide variety of boxes, and they weren't using the Petree as heavily. Emptying the waste drawer is, again, a little bit challenging because of the way that the drawer is designed. I also didn't really care for the fact that it was located at the back of the box, which means that you have to turn the whole thing around in order to access the drawer. I kind of wish that it was located on the front or the side or some other place that was a little bit more convenient and easy to access. And in addition to emptying out the waste drawer every few days to 1 week, you're going to have to do a deep cleaning on a regular basis. Now again, I only tried the Petree out for a couple of weeks, so I never really ran into a situation where I had to do a deep cleaning, but I would estimate that this would happen about once every month. And in this case, you're going to have to take all of the litter out, which is a bit of a challenge because there's no way to automatically empty the litter box. So you're going to have to figure out a way to pour the litter out of this globe. I found this was kind of awkward, and it was frustrating because just about every other automatic litter box I've used has some kind of system that makes it easy to empty out the litter. So the Litter Maid has a detachable pan that you can remove and dump out. The same applies to the PetSafe Scoop Free and the Chillax Auto Egg, and the litter robot allows you to automatically empty everything out into the waste drawer. So not being able to do this is a little bit frustrating when you look at the competition and consider that this isn't a cheap litter box. But other than that, doing that deep clean is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. There aren't a lot of nooks and crannies that are really difficult to access. Overall, the whole thing is pretty easy to clean. Now, as for how my cats responded to the litter box, I know that they were using it because I saw there was waste in the drawer at the end of the testing period, but frankly, I never saw either of my cats going into it. This leads me to assume that it's Forrest who's primarily using it, as she's a lot faster and tends to use her toilet in private. But while at least one of my cats was using the Petree litter box, I ultimately don't think that it's the most cat-friendly choice for a couple of reasons. One is that it only allows you to put a couple of inches into the litter box before you start seeing the spilling issue. And secondly, the area where your cat is able to dig around is pretty small. So when you take into consideration that maximum fill line, the litter bed measures just 13 to 14 inches across. That's a pretty small area for a cat to be digging around in, and for most cats, it's probably not really going to be enough. Secondly, while the dome is somewhat generously sized, it's not really that big. It measures about 19 inches across at its widest point. And again, that's not that much space for a cat to be moving around in. So while it's not terrible, and a lot of cats are probably going to be okay with it, it's not ideal. And finally, before I talk about price and my final thoughts on this automatic litter box, I want to talk a bit about the customer experience and the customer service you're going to get from Petree. So when I started looking into Petree, again, there weren't really that many reviews on them. Most of them were just published on the Petree website and were pretty positive, but customer reviews posted on a company's website are not necessarily the most accurate representation of customer experiences with that company. So I looked into it a little bit further, and I found a number of comments on Facebook saying that customers had had negative experiences with Petree, that their litter box had malfunctioned, and then they had extreme difficulty contacting the company. There were a lot of complaints that indicated that Petree might not have the most responsive customer support. My personal experience with them was okay. I ordered the curtain that's supposed to hang in the doorway of the Petree litter box, and I noticed that it hadn't arrived, so I contacted them. And I got an email in a couple of days explaining that this curtain had been shipped separately, and there were a number of issues that had kept it from arriving at my home. That being said, I also tried to contact them by phone several times, and I never was able to get an answer. So again, it was kind of a mixed experience. It does seem to be possible to reach Petree's customer support department, but it's a little bit more difficult than I think it should be. And if the experiences of these other customers are any indication with their reports of difficulty getting a refund and difficulty getting customer support in general, then I think that this could be a bit of a concern, something to think about before you make this purchase. As for price, the Petree litter box costs $379 in the Petree store, and this purchase is going to come with all of those waste store liners as well as that little litter catching mat. At almost $400, this is one of the most expensive automatic litter boxes on the market. It's getting pretty close to the top of the line litter robot, which costs about $500. So it is a pretty significant investment. Overall, the Petree litter box does seem to do a pretty good job of everything that it's supposed to do. It seems to effectively sift out clumps. I didn't notice a lot of sticking during my brief test, and it seemed to do a good job of controlling odors as well as scatter and tracking. Unlike a lot of other automatic litter boxes that encounter a lot of jamming and malfunctions, I wasn't experiencing that with the Petree litter box. And in fact, overall, I would say that my experience with this litter box was pretty good. That being said, for $379, I think that its set of features is a little bit limited. Overall, there just aren't a lot of options for customization that you might expect to see with an expensive litter box like this. And combined with the fact that I've seen some reports about poor customer service, and I know that they seem to be quite difficult to get in touch with by phone, this doesn't really seem like an almost $400 litter box to me. Its performance is comparable to something that costs closer to $100 to $150. Overall, it's just really difficult to recommend the Petree litter box, given the fact that there are so few customer reviews, and the ones that do exist and appear to be legitimate and not just posted on the company website involve a lot of complaints. The lack of information out there about this product does make it kind of difficult to say whether or not it's going to be a good option in the long term. If you are interested in trying the Petree litter box, you can purchase it through their website. I'll put a link to that in the description. Petree does say that you have a 1-year warranty and a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you're willing to take a little bit of a gamble, then it could be something to consider. I think that's about it for my review of the Petree litter box. If any of you guys have purchased and used the Petree, I would love to hear about your experience. Again, there just isn't enough information about this litter box out there, and I'd be really interested in hearing about other people's experience with this product. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us out a lot. And if you're interested in similar product reviews, buyer's guides, and information on all things cats, please do subscribe to the All About Cats channel and click the notification bell so you get the news every time we release a new upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.